Peter Dutton has accused Labor of blowing up Australia's relationship with Israel after it abstained from voting on a controversial United Nations motion. Political correspondent Olivia Caisley joins me now. Hi there, Liv. So what was the vote for?
Well, it's the first resolution put forward by the Palestinian Authority since it became a de facto member of the United Nations a couple of months ago. And this resolution, which passed overnight, called for a number of things. So primarily the immediate withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza and the West Bank, as well as a slew of sanctions against the Israeli state. Now, Australia was one of 43 nations that abstained from voting. One of the key sticking points was the fact that this resolution bore no mention to the October 7 terrorist attack by Hamas. We've heard from the opposition leader, Peter Dutton, and this morning he's accusing Labor of essentially destroying Australia's relationship with Israel. And he says that ultimately we should have followed the United States lead, which actually voted against this motion.
No, they should have voted with the United States. That much is very clear, and that's exactly what a Hawke government would have done. It's what a Howard government would have done. It's what an Abbott government would have done. And I think Penny Wong here is, and along with the Prime Minister, frankly, damaging our relationship very significantly with Israel, with the United States and with like-minded partners.
Australia's ambassador for the United Nations, James Larson, has made the following statement. He thinks that the motion that was put forward goes beyond the scope of an advisory opinion handed down by the International Court of Justice earlier this year. So he says, we're concerned that by making demands of the entire UN membership that go beyond the scope of the advisory opinion, the resolution distracts from what the world needs Israel to do. Foreign Minister Penny Wong spoke to reporters here in Canberra this morning, and she says that Australia had wanted to vote for the motion, but ultimately negotiations to insert amendments had been unsuccessful.
We would have preferred to have been in a position where we could support a resolution that reflected the International Court of Justice's advisory opinion, and we worked very hard in New York with other countries to try and get changes to the resolution that would enable us to support it. Unfortunately, this was not the case.
Meanwhile, Leigh, we've seen the second spate of bombings in Lebanon, that by way of booby-trapped devices. And this has led to calls from the Foreign Minister Penny Wong today to urge Australians in Lebanon, there is a big contingent living over there, to return home as soon as possible. She fears the situation in the Middle East escalating further, and she says that there's no guarantee that the government will be able to evacuate Australians in Lebanon if the situation were to deteriorate any further. Here's her message.
We are concerned about wider escalation, and we would continue to urge all parties to avert a regional escalation. We know that Israel lives in a unique security environment, and we also know that we see a cycle of violence in the Middle East. We would like to see peace, and the peoples of the region would like to see peace.
While Shadow Foreign Minister Simon Birmingham, he's framed these attacks we've seen overnight as part of a broader tit-for-tat we're seeing in the region. He says that the majority of targets were members of the terrorist group Hezbollah.
None of us wish to see a situation where the war broadens out into a regional conflict, and of course we all wish to see ultimately steps taken towards peace. But we do have to remember that Hezbollah is a listed and active terrorist organisation that relentlessly sends rockets into Israel. Just 2 months ago, sent rockets that, of course, killed children in a playground in the Golan Heights.
The opposition leader, Peter Dutton, will be holding a press conference in Brisbane later this morning, and no doubt he'll have more to say on what he's describing as a controversial decision by the government in the UN.